if you were watched every moment of your life? What if your world was make-believe?
While the world he inhabits is counterfeit.
What if you didn't know it? Until now.
A lot of strange things have been happening.
Is he looking at us?
Does he think he knows? I think I'm mixed up in something. Something big.
We accept the reality with which we're presented.
The Truman Show. Watch what happens.
Remember this very important symbol explained in Disclosure 2? The 3 levels of awareness, or the 3 levels of the illusion. This documentary is presented on all 3 levels. Before we start, we have to first realize who we are. We are a thought-creating being, living in a thought universe. Why do you think the ruling elite cabal want to control all the media and create false doctrines of deception? Why? Because we create everything in our world through thought. Thoughts become things. Everything around us was created from thought, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. Thought, in thinking substance, produces shapes. A person can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. Thoughts brings the energy into an existence at a subatomic level and slowly becomes part of the holodeck that shapes this so-called reality. Like holographic Lego building blocks, the thought can slowly turn into what is being created through free will, thought, and intent through the universal mind. A thought form is different than the random thoughts we have every day which we create, positively or negatively, but are chaotic and without structure. Normal, random, and common thoughts only have a short lifespan, but prolonged thoughts progress to structure into something. Every random thought is heard by the universal mind, so be careful what you wish for, and be careful who you curse. Most of humanity is totally unaware of the destructive forces it creates moment by moment with negative thoughts. Negative thoughts that are created out of fear, anger, hate, and revenge can get out of control and not only harm the indenting victim, but also harm the individual that created the thought form for the destructive purposes will suffer consequences. Think of a thought form like this. Imagine watching a high-tech movie at a theater. As you watch all the special effects, stunts, sound and action, everything is happening at once. Then, what do you see at the end of the movie? You see all the credits roll down. Scores and scores of names. How many people worked hard behind the scenes for months and months to bring you that 2-hour presentation? Thought form entities are like these people behind the scenes to bring you closer to the final product. Example 2. Think of them also like the crawlers in a search engine, like Google, who work behind the scenes every time you do a search. You can't see them, and you certainly can't see thought forms, which operate at a different frequency below the 7.23 centimeter waveform. The ancient Egyptians and Babylonians knew about thought forms, how they are created, and how they can be used to benefit them. The ruling bloodlines also knew about these thought forms, and through rituals and incantations, these thought forms started forming a life form of their own in the lower negative frequency astral realms. Through the centuries, these thought forms grew stronger and stronger and gained more and more power. They grew very wise and all-knowing. Up to this day, the secret society of the Illuminati marries and intertwines with these entities. They have marriage ceremonies and rituals to pair the physical with the non-physical. This is a fact. Research bloodlines of the Illuminati and confessions of the Illuminati. The King Solomon story is that he commanded spirits. What he commanded was thought forms that were structured to do his bidding from centuries past. These thought forms are kept alive to this very day through rituals, energy, and through misguided, indoctrinated religious people, as you will see later. Demons are negative thought forms. Angels are angles of positive light thought forms. These have been illustrated and documented on ancient scrolls. Through years of worshipping these life forms without soul, they started doing the bidding of these powerful bloodlines. They are also called jinns. They are not created by a god or a devil. They are created by us. In Walt Disney's classic Fantasia, we see Mickey Mouse controlling thought form entities and other universal elements to do his bidding. I go through this in detail on the website, as this is the most important subject in the occult hidden science. We are the creators of thought, the creators of thought forms, the creators of demons, the creators of angels. Are we then not gods in our own right, working through the universal mind? Thought forms, generated by the thought process.
possibility. Yes, that one is a definite possibility.
Earth. Approximately 5000 BC, before the devastation that wiped out most of civilization and wildlife. The Earth radiated with brilliant beauty. Through the caverns of space and time, it was in perfect synchronization with nature and all creation. The Earth's axis was not tilted, and the planet's orbit was perfectly circular. There were no seasons as we know them today, and the Earth was perfectly temperate. Food naturally grew on its own in abundance. This explains why no work needed to be done. Time was also different as we presently know it. The plants, animals, and human beings were much larger and shared longer lifespans. The level of human consciousness at that time had 48 plus 2 chromosomes, explaining the larger size and longer life. The Earth was also viewed in the fourth dimension. It was certainly a time of bliss. People had a lot of time on their hands to meditate and create beautiful art, sculptures, and great architectural wonders. Humanity working together in harmony, achieving great construction projects worldwide, benefiting everyone on planet Earth. Free energy and healing was also achieved from the knowledge we all possessed. Spirituality on the planet was at its all-time high. Love was the strongest vibration of all. Fear was unknown. The animals lived in harmony, and humans were all vegetarians. Civilization was so advanced at this point that they possessed technologies far more superior to present-day technologies. Established was also worldwide energy grids using no slave labor, but with the elaborate use of natural cosmic energies and forces. The Earth was a utopia, where the law of attraction works in harmony to one's wishes and desires. Some of the elders of the planet lived much longer than most other human beings and were given superior roles to play in society. These elders were looked upon as guides and wise men. As time went by, things were starting to change. A group of these elders wanted more control over society. Using their advanced technologies and the elaborate use of teacher plants, they started to channel thoughts from the ether and other realms. A group of powerful demonic thought form entities were more than eager to communicate with them from the empty void in between the dimensional frequencies.
care very much how you feel. And now it is in your power to do something about it. Close your eyes and listen. You are unhappy on this ship, aren't you? You are being bossed around by the others. A person of your distinction, treated like a menial.
Sometimes I almost wish they'd all disappear.
Your wish shall be granted, and much more.
Really?
All that can be changed. All you need do is wish for anything you want. You need never be bossed around again by anyone. You hate all of them, don't you? Tell me that you hate all of them.
Their mission was to corrupt the elders and gain entry into our known dimension. It was an impossible task, as the original great architect and geometrician of the Matrix universe designed the voids to keep undesirable entities out, just like a firewall on a computer. They channeled thoughts, ideas, and instructions to the renegade elders on what to do with their already vast technology. They corrupted the elders by showing them how to form governments around the world and run them by a one-world government. They were not sure on how they would achieve this and how they were going to convince the rest of the world in accepting this, as they were used to a carefree life. They needed to construct structures based on hyper-dimensional physics, not only on Earth, but on the Moon, Mars, and one of Saturn's moons. These were not just ordinary entities, but powerful thought forms that knew the language of sacred geometry and of the Matrix universe. They were like hackers trying to corrupt the system. They also knew the exact role of the sun and all the celestial bodies in the electric universe. The renegade elders turned their back on sacred universal law for exchange of more and more power. They were promised a new dimension of their own, where they could be gods in their own right, with eternal lives, where they can reign with El, the gods of matter. Except these gods were not gods at all, but lying, deceptive thought form entities. The constructions began, which took hundreds of years to complete, and in that period, major changes were taking place on Earth, including a formation of a one-world government. People were slowly losing their freedoms and knew something wasn't right. Civil wars were breaking out between nations and other elders. But that didn't stop the big day from commencing.
Attention! Patrol group going online for NXT beam event. We are powering up. Attention Category 1 personnel. Interlock areas are now restricted. This underground is now in restricted mode.
The experiment caused universal mayhem and causing a huge catastrophe on Earth and the surrounding planets. This caused a disturbance in the vapor canopy high above the planet, and the oceans of water it holds soon came crashing down. The volcanic eruptions around the Earth and underground water basins also were released that caused the epic deluge and flood. Large chunks of debris also entered the atmosphere for the first time in history. The remainder of the elite had underground cities and bases which most of them had survived in, including some of the technology and hoarded wealth. Some of the elite cabal had escaped to neighboring planets, having the high end of technologies at their disposal. Everything had changed dramatically. It's as if the Matrix was switched to a different program or frequency. Everything was destroyed. Some of the elite and elders that had survived the catastrophe thought the experiment was a disaster, but it was only a disaster for the world and surrounding planets. The sudden breakup of the totalitarian world government was the catalyst. In the events which followed, most continents and island groups were to become so isolated they would all but forget each other's existence. The cataclysm was a well thought out, calculated plan orchestrated by the thought-formed group of entities. The experiment ripped apart time and space, leaving a great hole in the void in which they entered. Other undesirable negative entities followed. This powerful group of demonic thought forms knew not only the language of the Matrix, but knew the sacred geometry of creation. These entities were like a software virus infecting the mainframe computer. The Matrix from that day was corrupted in every possible way imaginable, as if a counterfeit version of the Matrix was erected.
It's a terrible mistake! Is it? You're afraid, aren't you? I like it when you're afraid. Be more afraid. I know what you're like. You're nice and hateful. I'm hungry. I can use you. I don't eat as you do, and what I want, you can't give me. I need something younger, and stronger, and fresher. Make me grow big. But I can use you. We can play a funny game together.
This group of thought-form entities feed on all energy, especially negative energy, and this is why they caused a negative environment on planet Earth after the cataclysm. Their main goal was to turn planet Earth into a slaughterhouse, a planned, destructive, chaotic, and a death-creating environment so they could feed off all our energies. They are like us having a cattle farm for food, except we are the cattle. They have now corrupted the minds of the remaining elders and the few groups of survivors of the cataclysm. The deluge affected the magnetic fields around the Earth that had changed dramatically. Chromosome breakdown in all living species caused changes on every scale imaginable, which in turn affected our prolonged life and size. The so-called God gene, called VMAT2, was severely affected. VMAT2 is the DNA gene of our pineal gland. We lost most of our connection to the universal mind. The mainframe computer was now severed, our DNA rewritten. That's one of the reasons why we have forgotten who we are. The pineal gland is the most important gland in the body and is the all-seeing eye. This is how we tune into the Matrix and higher frequencies, as explained in the Holographic Disclosure 2 and the Holographic Universe 5. This gland has degenerated from its original size, comparable to a ping-pong ball, to its present size, that of a dried pea. Held inside the pineal gland are all these sacred geometries and understandings of exactly how the reality was created. It's all there in every single person. But these understandings are not accessible to us now because we lost our memories during the fall, and without our memories, we started to breathe differently. Instead of taking in prana through the pineal gland and circulating it up and down our central tube, we started breathing it through the nose and mouth. This caused the prana to bypass the pineal gland, which resulted in our seeing things in a totally different way, through a different interpretation, called good and evil, or polarity consciousness of the one reality. The result of this polarity consciousness has us thinking that we're inside a body looking out, somehow separated from what's out there. This is pure illusion. It feels real, but there is no truth at all to this perception. It's merely the view of reality we have from this fallen state. The star tetrahedron. This star tetrahedron, with Leonardo's image behind it, is going to become one of the most important drawings for this work. What you're looking at is two-dimensional, but think of it in three dimensions. A star tetrahedron, just as shown here, happens to exist around each human body. As Richard Hoagland has shown the United Nations and NASA, we are now beginning to scientifically rediscover this field. Just as it is shown around Leonardo, it is also around planets, suns, and even larger bodies. Notice especially that there's a tube running down the center of the body through which we can breathe life force energy, and the two apexes at the top and bottom of this tube connect the third dimension to the fourth dimension. Man was once a higher, superior being, certainly not a species of the monkey family. We are only a shade of the original man. The disharmony of the third dimension. When the sacred geometry of the Luciferian mindset was introduced into this three-dimensional egregore thought form, a total disregard for the natural Luciferian state of creation was purposely devised. This included taking natural pi and the endless decimal number 3.141 plus endless numbers and rounded it down to a perfect pi. This included taking natural pi and the endless decimal number of 3.141 plus endless numbers and rounded it down to a perfect pi, or 3. The same with the golden ratio, or golden mean, and the natural phi of 1.681 plus endless numbers and rounded it down to 1.6, or perfect phi. This all coincides with the 360-degree or 360-day year of the zodiac circle, which was rounded down from a 365.25 day plus a minute or two year. This allowed for sacred geometry, mathematics, algebra, chemistry, astrology, numerology, music, and an endless vast array of seductions to be devised which would flood the world. You cannot create a solid formula, calculation, or equation unless you round the numbers down. How can you take a real pi, 3.141, with endless numbers, and multiply it by anything and come to any conclusion? You can't. You have to manipulate or force the calculation to get a result. This forcing led to the creation of the number systems which drive the world and seduce us into the hypnotic state we're in. Real pi, 3.141, or natural pi, became perfect pi, 3. The golden ratio, or natural phi, became perfect phi, or 1.6. With this manipulation and creation of a number system, time and space appear to exist. This is the true meaning of order out of chaos. The most important goal on the agenda was to turn the planet into a slaughterhouse and the people into slaves, including the elite. This was a long, slow, embedded process that required the programming of the masses through the birth of religion and intellectual learning. History had to be covered up, and so began the lies and smokescreens of false teachings and superstitions that began and still continue till this very day. Desperation from the elders who were close to death and knew they were the last generation started to perform experiments to see why they were losing their size and longer lives, but to no avail. Some of the remaining humans were genetically modified, mixing the DNA with species. Some animals were crossbred with dinosaur DNA. A lot of species seen today have been genetically modified or crossbred somewhere back in time, making some of the breeds very aggressive and some very timid. Boars were also crossbred with human DNA, which became domesticated pigs. So on and so on. The whole animal kingdom was turned into a killing field by introducing peaceful, docile animals with predatory animals. Crazy crossbreeding and genetically modified insects were also produced. Most of the modified life forms died, and only the well-adapted survived. What sick mind would create an animal kingdom like this based on fear of survival by every animal? A loving God? No, but energy-loving thought forms certainly would. Today, they are secretly crossbreeding everything imaginable, different species, even reptiles with humans. Luckily for us, they still have very short lives, as the technique is still not mastered. Then they turned us into savages by displacing us after the deluge. Sounds familiar about today's events of wars and globalization? With survival instincts in mind and food shortages, we began for the first time to eat flesh of other conscious beings, which started off a major disharmony and an imbalance within the universe. We went against universal sacred law. We were now newborn killers, and the smell of death seemed to excite us like the burning of carcasses from dead animals we called food. We enslave and breed the animals for food, bringing death and misery to them and sickness to ourselves. When an animal knows it's about to die, out of fear, it releases a toxin into their bloodstream. The suffering of the animal's negative energy becomes embedded within the meat structural molecules. We were born vegetarian. That is a fact, despite what anyone thinks or says. I will prove it on an upcoming documentary, 6,000-year-old Health Secrets. Animals are living, conscious beings. They feel pain, they feel love, and they feel compassion and even remorse for their siblings and companions. They even dream like us. We started committing more treason against the planet by murdering another species, the tree, by cutting down these majestic trees for building purposes and the clearing of forests for farming. Not only are trees conscious beings, but on another level, the trees act like an earthing device to the spinning planet. Trees, when in the presence of humans, emit a faint cloud of ultraviolet gases. These UV gases are visible when filmed with a special camera. This is convincing proof that trees stress when humans are present. They also emit a high frequency when they know they are going to be chopped down. We are now in total disharmony with nature and other conscious beings. Our consciousness and awareness levels, not to mention our empathy levels, have now dropped dramatically, affecting also the animal kingdom. So now the world order was gone, but one thing lingered on, the memory of the technology they had once enjoyed. From this wreckage, primitive and agricultural economies emerged. Salvaging little but essentials, the survivors had to concentrate on bare survival. Without technological facilities to repair what remained of the equipment and machinery, they soon fell into disuse. Only the vivid memory survived. Within 400 years, the sudden birth of the supercultures began again. The world arose again like the phoenix from the ashes, but the technologies were not as superior, and plans to build the worldwide energy grid had started again. And within 1,300 years, Babylon was at power again for the second time. Remember, evolution is a lie based on a theory, not science. They lied in schools and universities. Time readings on how old something is, flawed science. Missing link? All lies. Even some of the popular dinosaurs are now shown by the mainstream to be hoaxes. Our true history hidden. We are all living in a world where I can show we have been lied to about everything. I do mean everything. We indoctrinated into a false belief system, a false reality, born into a prison for our minds. Why do you think they keep all the secret knowledge hidden from the public? Only 4% is released to universities and the public. 96% is hidden. Watch my other production, Secret Space, Secret Past.